Welcome back to Combat Mission Battle for Normandy. We're heading back to World War II because by the time this is live on YouTube, it'll be the 6th of June, the anniversary of the D-Day landings. This is the first mission of the Road to Montebourg campaign in the Combat Mission Battle for Normandy base game, where you lead the Americans inland from Utah Beach. This means that the first mission is on Utah Beach itself. It's a straight-up company attack on a German defensive position, which serves as a relatively straightforward introductory scenario. It might seem a bit harsh to throw the player in at the deep end with a difficult beach assault in the first mission, but Utah Beach really stands out from the other landing beaches because it all went so well. The popular perception of the D-Day landings is the bloody mess of Omaha Beach, as seen in Saving Private Ryan, and while this is pretty accurate, Omaha captures popular attention because it was the bloodiest landing beach, because it was the most dramatic struggle. But there were 4 other beaches, and 4 other pretty distinct set of circumstances, and events panned out differently across them all. The Americans in particular were unfortunate enough to find the hardest nut to crack at Omaha Beach, but at the same time, only a few miles up the coast at Utah, they got away with the least costly landing of the lot. It was still an opposed beach landing against a competent enemy, and the Americans still took 197 casualties, but while at Omaha everything seemed to go wrong, at Utah, even though things didn't go to plan, they panned out pretty well. So what have we got going on with this mission? We've got Easy Company of the 2nd Battalion 8th Infantry, which has hit the beach about 2,000 yards south of where it's supposed to land and is about to launch a hasty improvised attack on the German defensive positions at the far end of the beach. Specifically, its job is to attack Widerstand Nest Dry, or WN-3, Resistance Nest 3 in English, which is estimated to be a platoon-sized German force dug in around the farm of Boguilo. And because I can't really get my head around how to pronounce that, it's going to be called WN-3 for the rest of the video. I say German force here, but the defenders of WN-3 were from the 709th Infantry Division, which was made up mostly of Soviet prisoners of war and Poles conscripted from the German-Polish border areas. So not likely to be tremendously reliable when push comes to shove, and in any case with an average age of 36, not a division that is at peak combat effectiveness. This doesn't mean that these troops weren't capable of putting up a fight, but we're not talking about a top quality formation here. It's 1944 and the German army has some serious manpower issues. They're having to press everyone they can into service. Despite the questionable ability of the enemy here, to which we can add the fact that they've taken a chunky naval bombardment from the chin, I have a lot of open ground to cross on this map. The enemy doesn't have to do anything fancy to stop me here. All they have to do is sit in their trenches and bunkers and machine gun my troops as they try and advance. Luckily, I have a reasonable amount of firepower here. Easy Company is made up of 3 rifle platoons, each with 3 12-man squads equipped with M1 Garans and a smattering of BARs, Thompson submachine guns and Springfield marksman rifles. The company also has a weapons platoon equipped with 3 60mm mortars and 2 30 caliber machine guns. On top of all this, one of the infantry platoons has another 30 caliber attached, and one has an M1917A1 heavy machine gun attached, the old Vickers. Plus, I have a 2-tube section of 81mm mortars I can call on. Firepower is going to be the key here as I cross the beach. There is more cover than it looks. There's plenty of micro terrain here, little folds in the ground that my pixel tripper can take cover in. Plus, there's this channel halfway across that will make a suitable staging area for the final assault. But in between all these areas, there's this open ground. And if I want to cross this, I need to put out enough fire to make the enemy keep his head down and not take advantage of this great big killing field. So looking at the map and the objective, it's pretty clear how I should be approaching this. The WN-3 objective is on the left and the edge of the beach on the right is covered by a minefield. So I'm going to attack on the left with fire support from the right. Because of the angles here, the MGs on the right should be able to keep up suppressive fire on WN-3 right up until the assault platoon launches its final attack. Nice and simple stuff. We're really just playing with basic infantry tactics here. A quick note on the mods I'm using, because I'm sure some of you will ask. I'm using Bin's unit icons, which I find make it really easy to be able to differentiate all the different units without me having to learn any specialist symbology like NATO icons. I'm also using Vane's effects and the H2S sound mod because the vanilla explosions and the audio are a little bit lackluster in my opinion. And finally, I'm running a slightly tweaked version of Barbarico's War Movie filter mod, which is mostly altering the lighting. Everything else here is completely vanilla. There are no new ground or unit textures, and it's not looking that bad to say that it's nearly 8 years old and graphics weren't a priority. Kicking off the game, we get our first look at the fortifications around WN-3, which highlights another strategic problem the Germans had in 1944. Some of you might have been expecting big concrete bunkers here. The fact is the Germans had so much coastline to cover, they didn't have either the time or resources to build their coastal fortifications up to a uniformly high standard. In many places, the resistance nests covering the beaches have been built up by local defending units from wood and earth. They're not the monolithic concrete super bunkers from Saving Private Ryan. On Utah Beach in particular, the defensive strongpoints are also spread fairly thin, and the low-lying terrain means that they're not always able to mutually support each other. There is a bit of a gameplay issue with these bunkers though, and it's not an issue that's restricted to combat mission. This happens in plenty other games. The bunker on the right has a fixed machine gun, and the game is telling the German Pixeltruppen inside the bunker to man the gun, regardless of any incoming fire. This means that the gunner is stood up behind the gun and exposed in the firing slip. The range from my troops to the bunker varies from about 500 to 600 meters, which is easily enough to ensure that plenty of rounds go through the opening. It doesn't take very long for the crew of this bunker to get themselves killed by trying to man their machine gun, literally queuing up to get shot in the head. Realistically, it's not that big an issue because bunkers show up fairly rarely in the game, but there's certainly an argument for the Pixeltruppen inside being able to duck. That would make them a little bit more useful or a little bit more threatening, depending on whether it's your bunker or not. More worryingly, there's a little enemy machine gun fire coming from WN-3 itself, and a little later from the far right when a burst from a tripod mounted MG42 takes out the leader of one of the 30 caliber machine gun teams. If I was advancing already, this could be a problem. I could end up pinned down out in the open, very vulnerable, and taking casualties from all this German firepower. But I'm not advancing in the open. What I'm trying to do here is spot the enemy and win the firefight. My troops aren't very exposed where they are, and I have so much firepower I'm able to play whack-a-mole. I'm directing small arms fire onto the enemy machine gun teams to keep them suppressed, while directing mortars onto them. There's a pretty significant difference here between my on-map 60mm mortars and the off-map 81mm, and it's not just because the 81s make a bigger bang. I'm using the 60mm to engage directly. The individual mortar teams are aiming for themselves. They're seeing where their rounds fall and they're correcting their shots all on their own, so they're much faster to get on target than the 81mm who have to be rung up on the radio. I don't need to do any spotting with the 81s because I'm pulling them in on target reference points. They already have all the data they need to hit the target area, so they don't need to adjust onto it. But there's still a 3-minute communication buffer between calling them up and the mortar bombs coming down. The 60mm don't have that issue. They're much more reactive, but because they use smaller, lighter ammo, they also fire a lot faster. This is very good for saturating a small area, but they use up their ammo very fast. By the time we've gotten into the 9th minute, there's no more small arms fire coming out of the tree line, and I've only taken a few casualties. There is someone spotting for a mortar though. Bombs keep slowly dropping in, causing casualties here and there, so the Pixeltruppen don't need much encouragement to start moving forwards towards the channel. They're covered by plenty of small arms and machine gun fire, but no resistance materialises, and my biggest issue is making sure the base of fire moves up in order to avoid friendly fire. 20 minutes in, and it's time to close with the enemy on the objective. Under cover of more small arms fire, the 60mm mortars and a smoke mission from the 81s, the infantry start to push up. I've split them into teams for this. American rifle squads are 12 men strong, and a clump of a dozen Pixeltruppen makes for a good target. It's kind of hard to miss. Splitting them down, giving them short waypoints, and staggering their start times lets them move up without being quite so exposed. The 60mm are smothering the WN-3 farm compound, knocking down a few of the buildings already damaged by the naval bombardment, and another mission from the 81s joins them after they're done blocking the smoke. All of this is enough to allow my left-hand platoon to close in on the farm, and the infantry in the centre to move up to the blockage line on the edge of the objective, where they find a load of German infantry. There's a foxhole position dug into the opposite corner of the objective field with another MG42 team in it, and it's able to quickly suppress the first couple of GI teams that get up to the hedgerow. This isn't an enemy position that I can mortar, it's way back in the second line where I don't have line of sight for direct or observed fire, and it's too far away from the TRPs to be of any use. So this one is going to be down to the pixel truppen at the sharp end. And I can get away with this because I massively outnumber the enemy. I have 3 teams up front already popping their heads back up, another 3 coming up to the right of those, and a 7th coming online on the left. This is a lot of targets that the enemy have to fire at. They can't suppress them all, and those that aren't suppressed can put the fire out. The Germans may have better squad level machine guns with the MG34 and the MG42, but they're quickly smothered by close range semi-automatic rifle fire from the Evan Garand, backed up with BAR and Thompson bursts. The GIs gain fire superiority in short order and quickly dominate the objective area, driving the Germans out of their foxhole in the corner and finishing off the enemy pixel truppen caught out in the open field. Over by the farm itself, I'm moving my left-hand platoon in to flank and secure the building. There's a single MP40 armed German in the ruins of the barn who gets a few bursts off, but he doesn't hit anything and he gets a 30-06 round to the face for trying. The enemy have been driven off the objective. They're broken and they're fleeing into the woods. It's time to hit the ceasefire button, revealing a total victory for the Americans. I've secured the objective and kept my casualties down with just 4 dead and 5 wounded, all of whom were either hit by machine gun fire or mortar bombs in the early firefight. After gaining the fire superiority I needed to cross the beach, I didn't actually take any losses at all. Last but not least, I've inflicted 9 dead and 14 wounded on the enemy, leaving 13 pixel truppen still kicking. This means that I've missed out on my objective to totally neutralise the enemy, but that's not a big issue. They're going to get mopped up soon. This chunk of beach is secure and Easy Company is off inland. I've never actually played the Road to Montebourg campaign beyond this mission, so I might give it a go. It is historically accurate, the units involved, the force composition and the maps are all about as close as it's possible to get, so you might be seeing some more of it. Also in the pipeline is some more Shock Force 2. I've just finished a blue on blue quick battle and I'm playing in a multiplayer campaign on the Few Good Men forum, so there's plenty to look forward to on that front. That's it from me though guys, don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next video.